Hey everyone! Hopefully this is working right. Fingers crossed anyway. I'm Shar and this is Colourisma. Had a bit of a break over the holiday and New Year, but now we're back and we're going to be talking about goals and how to achieve them, how to create them, why should you even make them in the first place, and hopefully ways to actually keep them throughout the year. So I did this around 3 a.m. last night. So I had started trying to make goals probably sometime around 5 p.m. And I stared at a blank piece of paper, and then I stared at another blank piece of paper, and then I stared at several different kinds of goal making stuff. And then I, excuse me, I asked a few people different questions on how the best way I should try to go about doing this. And I was reminded of a video I've seen in the past, and that video actually talked about creating big goals and then chunking them down until basically you have step one. And that's basically what I did. And when I did that, it was actually really easy. It was very easy to go from, okay, get this many of whatever, like subscribers or views or whatever metric you want to track, and then break that into quarters, and then break that into months, and then break that into weeks, days, and then you basically know what to do right now once you break it down far enough. So that part was nice, because I had spent so much time just staring and not actually getting anything done. So it was nice to definitely actually get the goals achieved. So I have my broadcasting thing over here, but I'm looking at this screen because that's the camera. So forgive the whole dual focus thing, but I'm gonna switch over. Hello, hey, out in the chat. Let's see, which one do I want? Let's try this one. Oh, that one's a little small. Let's try that one. There we go. So here is what I did. This is what I was working on at 3 a.m. and then decided I can't go to bed until this is done. I'm going to scooch this over. I decided to pick up, well, not really pick up, but I decided to reactivate my Trello account. I was not very impressed with it when I first opened it up and started to try to do things with it. I also started, let's see, what is it called? Evernote. Yeah. Late last year, like 3 weeks ago. And I started trying to track stuff in there, and it was doing okay. I, of course, have my handy dandy just notebook where I just literally just write down everything. And I like that. I've been using that system for probably about 5 years now, if not a little longer. But I still am not where I want to be. I'm still not getting the goals that I want to get. And honestly, it doesn't really matter what kind of tracking thing you use. You can use pen and paper. You can use a digital thing. That's not really the reason why. My paper method was not the reason why I didn't get my goals accomplished. It is because I had unclear goals. And that is why I suggest having clear goals. Because once you get really narrow and really focused and targeted, then it makes everything a lot easier. And even things that sound really intimidating at first, I'll go through my annual goals here. It seems really intimidating. Once you break it down to the actual day, it's not too bad. But it just goes to show that when you do a little something every day, it will hopefully advance to being able to have the whole entire, big goal achieved at the end of the year. So here are my goals. My main goal, big goal, is to, let me preface with a small side story, but I used to be full-time artist, but I also used to live with my parents, and I have never been full-time art on my own like I am now. And so my goal is this year to be full-time art by this time next year. Fingers crossed. But this is how I feel like I can achieve that. So these are probably kind of lofty goals, but honestly, they're the kind of things I need to do and focus on and actually like do on the daily to get to where I want to be. So I don't know, hopefully y'all can see it okay, but I'll read it out if you can't. So first, I want to get 200 plus patrons for the Golden Troop. I have 20 currently. So this is a very, very lofty goal. This is extremely like, I don't even know, like my brain will just like if I could actually achieve this, but I've been on Patreon pretty much since it started. I think I had like a year or two when it very, very first started, which I think was 2013, where I was just like sitting on it. I was like, I don't know how to really like do Patreon. I don't know how to like start it. I don't know what I would sell. I at the time was doing pet portraits, and I didn't want to do like a pet portrait Patreon because I didn't want to do a pet portrait per patron every month or anything. I didn't know how to make that work. It didn't seem to, and I'm sure you could make it work, but I couldn't figure it out. So I sat on it for a while until probably, I want to say once I started my fantasy, like reactivated my fantasy kind of like art and everything. And I want to say that was probably around 2015 or so. So I've had my Patreon for like 5 solid years, and I have 20 patrons. Math and me aren't really friends, but you can tell that's not a lot of patrons like per year. Now, the good news is most patrons that I've had back in 2015 are still my patrons now. So I'm super grateful for that. And they're mostly like friends and family. And they always say like that's like the hardest thing to jump is the friends and family kind of like barrier on Patreon. It's kind of one of those things where once you get like the one person who you don't know very well or you've never met, then you've kind of made it on Patreon. And I'm not there yet. So it's a long ways to go. It's a lofty goal, but it is what has to happen in order to get the amount I need to be able to live on my own and be comfortable and be okay with that. So the next goal I have is to finish an animation for the Golden Troop that I've started, and it is with a song called Oasis. And I've been sitting on this for probably 1 to 1.5, 2 years or so. I heard the song and I really liked it. I saved it to my Spotify playlist, and then I just kept hearing it in the car as it would come up. And every time I heard it, I'd play a little bit more in my head as I was driving. And eventually I created a whole 5-minute movie in my head. And I actually just came up with the ending. I could never come up with the ending and remember what I wanted to have happen there. But I finally came up with a decent like ending for the whole entire like little movie. Music video thing that I want to do just a little bit ago. But anyway, I've thought about this for a long time. I've kind of started a rough animatic for it. I've probably only done like 20 frames or something for the animatic. So I have a lot of work to do on it. And I want to finish this animation by the end of the year. We'll see. At least I'm planning on finishing line work. I don't know if I'm going to get to color. I feel like line work would be a big enough challenge, and especially like actually smooth flowing animation, not just like animatic style. So that's a big goal for me for this year. I've thought about doing Kickstarters for it, and I feel like maybe if I had all of the line work done and I showed that off, then maybe I could do a Kickstarter to get the color done. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I want to get it done regardless this year because I've been thinking about it for way too long. Yes, that is a good method too. I'm going through my annual goals, but if you can't even like get to the point of having annual goals, then there is definitely a technique you can use. And Christy pointed out that um, just do like a huge brain dump. Just like think of every single thing that you want to do, regardless as to the importance of it, regardless as to if it's a personal goal or an art goal or a professional goal or any kind of anything. Then just write it all down. Don't try to make it pretty. Don't try to like prioritize anything when you're in this stage. Just write it all down. Um, Eventually you can kind of like start, once you feel like you can't think of anything else, then you can start looking through your list and star things that seem important, and then kind of take those starred ones and eventually break them down into like the most priority ones that you want to be able to do. But that is a very good idea. Appreciate you saying that. So for the third goal, I want to finish the Golden Troop Volume 1. I have the Golden Troop planned out through 3 volumes. And it's by planned out, that's a very like loose terminology. The way I like to do my comic and the way it helps me to stay engaged isn't to have like a exact script with a detailed, plan and exact things. I kind of like to I have a general idea in my head of the big things that I want to have happen in the story. And the exact ways I get to there is kind of the fun part for me. And I like spending a long time thinking about it. Um, However, it's not super like the best plan. I'm still working on the best way to do this, but I basically figured out I could get the first volume done. I'll try to plan it out a little bit more than I have and figure out how many more pages is it going to take to finish this first volume. I know what I want to have happen, and this isn't super spoilery, but I know what I want to have happen by the end of the first volume, and that is all the characters meet. That's pretty much it. At that point, I'll be done with the first volume. And then I'm also not sure if I want to have the exact same size volumes for each one, or anyway, that's all like a moot point. I haven't gotten there yet, but one thing at a time. I just want to finish the first volume of the Golden Troop this year. All right, so that said, those are the Golden Troop kind of related goals. And then I have 2 other goals that I want to work on for this Colourisma that I am doing here. And the first one is to get 1,000 YouTube subscribers for Colourisma. And that is also a super lofty goal because I forgot to check before this broadcast because I'm super prepared. But I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 also as well, 20 subscribers to Colourisma. Maybe. Y'all can check on that for me. So going from 20 to 1,000 by the end of the year is definitely a lofty goal. I have some plans. I've watched so many videos. I should be better at this given how much research I've done on how to grow your YouTube channel and all the things you need to do that. But the thing is like, you can do all this research, and I think a lot of us get stuck like this, right? Like we do the research, but then we don't actually like make a plan to do the things that the research showed us that we should. Guilty. So I think this is definitely going to be the year to implement a lot of the things that I already know. I know it. I know I've seen it. And today was not a good example because I slept until about 1 p.m. and then I woke up and leisurely had my breakfast until about 2. And then I scrambled together my Instagram and TikTok posts about Colourisma, only giving me about 10 minutes left to set up the StreamYard and actually get this whole entire thing going. So that'll be another thing, is like planning. Probably try to get some planning things done and better. I did have it planned though, to be fair to myself. I did plan it out last night. I just slept through and had my breakfast through most of the things that I was meaning to do. But anyway, we'll get better about that too. So the final goal I have for this year, last but not least, is to try to get 100 patrons for Colourisma. And that is also a lofty goal because I believe we are at 2. So going from 2 patrons to 100 is also going to be extremely difficult, but that's also why I picked that goal to go along with 1,000 YouTube subscribers, because I know just statistically, you typically have a small percentage of, now that's kind of actually a high percentage, being like 10%, of the viewership actually contributing, like, I say that like actually contributing. No, I just mean like anytime you look at any kind of successful property, I can think of dozens of comics on like Instagram or whatnot. And then you look at how many people are actually supporting those creators on a platform like Patreon. The number is usually like infinitesimal. Like I know people who have millions of followers on Instagram, and then when you look at their Patreon, they have like, now this is a lot, I'm not trying to like, this is a lot, but there's like 14,000 patrons. But if you look at the, the numbers are just so skewed because there's like millions, and then like 14,000 people decided to contribute. So I can't do the math on that, but you can tell that's a big discrepancy. So I'm just going to kind of like really focus and tailor this channel to the people who I feel like would really benefit from it. And then hopefully those people, because I'll be tailoring it more instead of just trying to cast this wide net, hopefully those people will want to then, help out the channel grow and do all of that kind of stuff through the Patreon. So that's my kind of plan there. So it's not a completely pie in the sky hopes and dreams kind of thing. It's a targeted, approach that is a little bit out there, but not quite like completely out there. So that said, I went and took all of these annual goals and I broke them down into quarterly objectives. And once I got to this step, it made everything really easy. Like I couldn't stop working on this until I got all the way down to what I should do tomorrow. But the quarterly objectives, I took each one of these numbers, these big numbers, 200 patrons for the Golden Troop, and I actually looked at the full, like how many minutes is the Oasis song, and then I broke it down into, again, 4, divisible by 4 quarters. And then I literally just did, I'm not good at math, but I still did math, and I just broke it down. So I came to find that I would need per quarter 50 new The Golden Troop patrons. Now that's a lot given I have 20. And so by the end of March, I want 50 more. It feels quite daunting. It really does. Still at this point, these quarterly goals feel like a lot. And it is a lot, but as we keep going, it's going to feel more like less stressful, hopefully. At least it made me feel less stressed. And then 25 new Colourisma patrons by the end of the quarter, 250 new Colourisma YouTube subscribers. I want to complete 12 pages of the Golden Troop. Those won't be the pages I'll necessarily be posting because I'm doing a bi-weekly schedule, but that is going to make me committed to doing 1 page per week, which I have not been super great at doing in the past, but that is hopefully going to change this year. And then 1.25 minutes of the Golden Troop Oasis music video animated. So that means I'll have 1 minute and 1 minute and then like, what do they call it? Yeah, 25 seconds, something like that. Totally animated for, not totally, the line art will be animated for that project. So those all goals, they feel like a lot, honestly, at this point. Those goals feel very daunting and very like daunting. to be honest. They still feel like a lot. So I broke them down into a month, and this is where it started getting like a little bit like I could sigh a little breath of relief because it actually didn't feel that much at this point. Yes, Christy is right. The breakdown definitely allows you to estimate things in a like manageable way. Without that, you can just be like, oh yeah, I'll just get like 200 patrons. It's fine. And then without like a structured plan on how to do that, it just feels like this goal that is way out here and you can never reach it. So hopefully this will help someone out there be able to take their lofty goals and make them into more manageable things. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that the reason why I chose these numbers, and I meant to say this earlier, but the reason why I chose these numbers wasn't arbitrary. I took the amount of income I am generating from 20 patrons on my Golden Troop Patreon account, and I projected, okay, how much money do I need to make to be able to live, which honestly is not that much money. I have a very frugal lifestyle. But I took that general, because it won't be the same. Everybody will kind of contribute different amounts, and I'm accounting for that. But I know this many patrons yields this much. So I know if I want this much, how many patrons, how many patrons would that be? And I came up with the figure of 200. It's actually really easy math, but I had to use like an algebra calculator thing online. And anyway, it checked out. But yeah, so that was why I picked that number. The 1,000 YouTube subscribers was a little bit more arbitrary, but by just choosing that, I kind of based it on other web shows, art web shows like this, and how they're doing and how many subscribers they have. And I didn't really look into like all the breakdowns of like how long it took them to get there. I was just thinking like, if they have that many, then it might take this many, 1,000 to get to a more substantial base that would allow me to be able to say get like 100 Patreon subscribers, and that would also help me grow the Colourisma channel, and it would help me actually be able to do this as a sustainable like help toward that goal of making this my full-time work. Yeah, so those are why I chose those goals. That was another thing that allowed me to kind of keep it manageable. So for the monthly breakdown, and I like made, this isn't like as fun as some of the other like little digital planners. Like I wanted more colors and stuff, but I did what I could. So I had the Q1 objectives, the months that would be, and then I broke down each month, which I just copied and pasted. And I think you can duplicate these. Oh, I never talked about this. So yeah, I started with Trello, and then I took an advice to check out, I do not know how to say this name, but Plannyway. Maybe that's it. PLANYWAY.com. And then it hooks into your Trello account, and it makes it a better experience. You can do a lot more with your time and everything. It's still not great. It's still not like what I'd really want out of it, but that's a limitation of Trello and not so much this particular extension. All free, by the way. I would not recommend things that are not going to be very accessible for people, because that's what I use myself. But yeah, so back to focus, back to the monthly goals. So this is where it starts getting more manageable in my mind, that getting 16 new The Golden Troop patrons per month is still lofty, because that's still almost the total amount that I have entirely, and 16 new people that I've probably tapped out like the friends and family. Everybody who has contributed, I think I can't talk about it anymore to them, to, I don't want to force anyone, of course, but basically I need to branch out. I need to actually start making, this is the hard part that I've been avoiding for a long time, where I need to start branching out, talking about my Patreon more and telling people about it constantly. I don't really, okay, so this is like two things kind of going against me here. I don't really have imposter syndrome per se, but what I do have is like a highly developed burden complex, which isn't quite the same thing. So I'm very worried about bothering people. I'm not worried about my self-worth. That's not really in with this. I know that like my art is worthy, and you know, I feel like I'm at a certain level and I enjoy that, and blah 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 about that. We can talk about more about that on another day, but it's not really into that. I'm worrying very much about bothering people, and I say that as I'm like constantly deleting spam from my email, and I don't like it, you know, like I don't want any more like messages from people telling me another thing to do, and I use my email as like a checklist. So for me to just get random emails all the time, also I'm like running out of Gmail gigabytes in my Gmail account. I only have like 3 gigs left before I max out my Gmail. So I'm like very picky about emails now. I've had this email for a really long time, like 15 years, but still. Anyway, I'm very picky about the kind of things I know I consume. And when somebody keeps like hawking their wares at me, we're all very sensitive to that. We both like commercials and advertising to some extent, like good ones that we are like in sync with, but also we hate ones that we are not in sync with. We do not want anything to do with it. We mute it. We, skip past it as fast as possible. So hopefully y'all don't hear that too much, but I have car people that are just right there. Anyway, not necessarily but they're very loud. Anyway, so the point being is we have to be very targeted about our advertising, and being targeted about advertising is a lot of work, and it's a lot of work that takes away from doing the comic. It's a lot of work from being able to do my animation, from being able to research on any of these topics, from even being able to scroll more on TikTok. Like it's work to do good marketing and advertising, and I don't want to do the work. And it basically boils down to that. And to make a good advertisement takes a lot of work, because you have to like know your audience, and that has been a struggle for a very long time for me. But I finally feel like I've made some headway there. But that said, it still takes time and effort and more drawing on top of all the drawing that I have planned. I have 1 minute and 25 seconds worth of animation I gotta do this quarter. Like that's a lot. So yeah, it's a lot, and I've been avoiding that work, but I need to stop because it's obviously a detriment to me wanting to meet my goals. And so I'm going to try a lot of different things, and I'll update y'all if you're all interested throughout the year, and to let you know like what strategies I'm finding that are working and what strategies I'm finding are not working. So yes, so that is kind of wrapped into my Patreon and getting 16 new patrons a month. And I have a further breakdown, which ends up being about 4 new patrons a week, which is still kind of a lot. It still seems aggressive to me, but 4 is a lot more manageable than 200. And if I just had that 200 number in my mind the whole time, it would be very daunting all the time. And I would just think, I can't do it. I can't. 4 is like, I need like 4 new friends every week that are willing to help me out with this project. That's like a reasonable, manageable kind of like mentality to think about. So really, guy, come on. But yeah, so that is that goal. And then new Colourisma patrons, and that same kind of thing there. I got to create like advertisements. So this is like not just one different type of advertisement that I have to think about and come up with and blah, 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 blah. I got to do this for 2 different things. So I'm already exhausted a little bit. 84 new YouTube subscribers in 1 month. That is still daunting to me. That still makes me think that this is going to be difficult. But this is for a whole entire month. So we'll check out the breakdown. Let's see. 21 new YouTube subscribers a week. Still feels like a lot when I have only 21 or so. But I just need to talk about it more. Sometimes it's not even, you know, a lot of the marketing and stuff isn't necessarily even hark, let me harp on my stuff and bother you with it. It's literally just letting people know that it exists, because we are busy. I know a lot of the patrons that Patreons that I support myself, I didn't go on the first round. Like, they didn't say, hey, I'm doing a Patreon, and then I jumped right on. A lot of times they like talked about it for like 5-10 times or whatever until I was like, oh yeah. And then I contributed. So I just got to remember that everyone is a lot more like me than I realize at times. Sometimes we all think that we have to do this like more. We have to make this like giant experience to like capture all these, you know, people's attention. And sometimes that happens, you know, but that can't be like a weekly occurrence. I mean, unless like marketing is your whole entire job. But as you can tell, I have a lot more going on than just worrying about marketing. So that is just, you know, another thing to think about, is like an everyday stuff that just talk about it. Just let people know it's there. And then of course we got down to the 4 pages of the Golden Troop comic a month. I'll probably only release 2, but then this is going to help create a backlog for me. And I will be able to also post weekly on my Patreon and incentivizing more people to want to join the Patreon, because they get like 2 more comics a month than they would get if they just only viewed it on Instagram. So like, you know, plans are coming together, you know, this is the whole thing here. And then 41 seconds of the Golden Troop animation for the month. And that also feels daunting, because I think typically when I've done little short animations for TikTok videos, which are typically 1 minute, and I usually only animate like 15 to 20 seconds, and a lot of that is like an animatic style, so that means that I'm drawing fewer frames. And a lot of those animations take me anywhere between 2 to 4 months. So I'm trying to do 41 full seconds when I normally, in like 1 month, as opposed to like a minute over 4. So that's going to be a challenge. But when I broke it down to weekly, 10 seconds of animated content per week. All right, a little more manageable there. But yeah, so that's basically all of the things. I apologize, this isn't super linear, but that's also why I've got this like written out. So I know I'm kind of like all over the place, but that's also how my brain works. It's very confusing in here. Welcome to my world. So we've broken it down to the week, and now we're breaking it down even further to like the exact day. And this is the part that like actually, of course, it was getting to be like 4 in the morning, so I probably should have like saved it for the morning. But this is the part that it got a little bit more tricky, because I knew I couldn't do all of these things every single day. I had to make it manageable, and I had to make it like make sense, or else otherwise it was just going to be too confusing. And this is also where this particular system didn't impress me too much, because it doesn't do what I want it to. And I won't get into all of the nitty gritty about that, because I find going into that on these is a little boring. But What I ended up doing is so just a real little thing though is like on Trello they have cards. So instead of like tasks or assignments or whatever, they break everything down into cards, and you can also do this thing where you can create a checklist, which I like more, but you can't make the checklist items as specific as you can a card. So I had to break some things down into individual cards based on the days of the week that I wanted to do them. And this is why I didn't want to talk about this, because it gets really annoying and into the weeds and crap. But I'll just explain one example. So for the animation, I am trying to animate 10 seconds per week. So I took the days that I have free time away from my part-time job, which ends up being 4 days. And I took those 4 days and decided that in order to animate 10 seconds, I could do, I broke it down. Okay, this is where I didn't write it. I didn't show my math, so I'm a little bit like, So I basically know that it's 24 seconds, sorry, 24 frames per second. And that's where I got the number 12 from, because I could animate. My brain is breaking. Can y'all hear my brain breaking? It made sense last night. I might be wrong, but it made sense. And it eventually I broke it down to 12 frames per day. And I just broke down the different days that I would do it. And then I'm going to move this over. Come on, bud. Where do I move it? I'm looking for the little arrow thing to pop up, and it's not doing it. Come on. There it is. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? There it is. Okay. That was difficult. Come on. Did I break my page? There we go. Okay. So I moved all of these things down into the different cards, and then I assigned each card to a day of the week. So each day of the week wouldn't be overwhelming with different tasks to do. And I broke them down into 2 different colors. I did green for Colourisma and yellow for the Golden Troop. And so you can kind of see the Golden Troop heavy days as opposed to like the Colourisma heavy days, and the different things that I have assigned for myself each day. I'm still going to play around as to what I'm actually going to do on those days, because some things I left kind of vague so I could come up with it later if I need to. Like for advertising the Patreon, I came up with 3 different things that I might do on any given day, which is like creating an ad, which is a lot of work, promoting the Patreon on a post, which isn't as much work, or creating an ad and then promoting the old ad. So spend some time creating an ad, but then make it evergreen so I can use it throughout the year. Oh, we got comments. Let me check. Okay, so it looks like I will definitely be doing like a follow-up on this. Yes, okay, good. I'm glad this breakdown is helping. I feel like I might be too in the weeds, but if it is helping, I definitely don't mind sharing. And we're almost done. We're almost done. So I'm talking more than I have talked in like a while, so my system is overloaded here, but so yeah, I have the idea to promote the Patreon 3 times a week, but trying not to just overtly go Patreon, Patreon, Patreon. Instead, like maybe I'll post to just my stories, or I'll mention it in the comments, and then maybe once per week I'll actually do like an actual ad, or every other week or something, where it's just like subscribe. Or maybe especially in regards to Instagram, I'll do my main post and then I'll do like a little, hey, and for more, check out the Patreon kind of post, like, because you can do the little slides, so you can do more than one little picture in there. So there's a lot of options for that. And I don't want to have it so specific so soon. So like right now that I don't have any flexibility later in case some of this doesn't work out the way I want, or I have to change it up a little bit. And then same kind of thing with the new YouTube subscribers. And these are also things that while I do have them as goals, I don't really have a ton of control over them. But that's why I kind of like have it as a goal, but at the same time, it's a goal that I can take actionable steps on. I can't say, let's get 4 new patrons and then do nothing during the week. Like that's an unactionable goal. But if you say, I want 4 new patrons and 3 days a week, I'm going to talk about my Patreon and show people where to go to it and talk about it and actually bring attention to it. Those are the actions that you can take to help achieve that goal. I think you got to have both. I think it's good to have goals that you don't have full control over, but at the same, I mean, we all are a business here. Like we can't pretend that like businesses have monetary goals and those goals are not 100% under their full control. But at the same time, they still have to have these goals because otherwise they can't stay in business. So we can't pretend like, oh, we can't do anything that we don't have full control over. Like we have to. That's the nature of life. We don't have full control over really much of anything. So we have to try to like not force, but like we have to try to make the things that we want to have happen as much as we can anyway. Yeah, so like I said, same kind of thing with the YouTube subscribers. I feel like I have even less control over that, but I could still do more in terms of tagging my vids correctly, commenting on other channels as Colourisma to help draw attention to the platform. It's probably spending more time on my actual Colourisma channel and watching related content, art content on there anyway. And maybe making my other channel more of like the personal side stuff that I like to watch and follow. That might be a day where I just like subscribe to all the same people that I'm subscribe to on my personal account and bring them over into Colourisma, and then mostly just try to watch like art videos and comment and interact there. I don't love the advice, the YouTube advice of like, comment on all these other channels and then like, you know, they'll subscribe back to you. But, you know, like be targeted about it, like be intentional about it. Don't be obnoxious. Don't be like someone who's like sub for sub. Like I don't even want that. I did that a little bit a few years ago and I still have repercussions from that. It's not a good way to go. I only want people to follow the content I create because they really want to, not because they feel obligated or forced or anything, but because it is a fit with their intentions and we kind of like mesh. That's like my goal. And that's the kind of accounts and stuff that I want to follow and help support. And ultimately, that's what I want to do with Colourisma, is support other creators. And I do also have a plan, even though I don't have anything listed here about like all the different social medias I want to post on, because while I do have it here in the, I'm gesturing with my hand as if you can see my screen through my hand. Anyway, yeah, you can see my mouse cursor there. I'll do that. So I do have on here like post to Instagram and do this and post to TikTok and do that. So the social media this year, I'm going to try to use it as like the tool to get to my goals. Like the goal in of itself is not going to be post to Instagram 3 times a week. That's not going to be the goal. The goal is going to be what you saw this whole entire time is to get, you know, the Patreons that will help allow me to do this full time. It might be, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be a slight problem to rely so much on one thing That's another thing I might want to reassess later is like, do I want to only rely on Patreon, or do I want to, like I currently kind of have set up for myself, or do I want to maybe do a Kickstarter or release a book or do this or that? That's fine. But like, I say, for me, I'm just going to focus on this right now because these are like manageable goals for me. And if I try to get too much into the weeds of like, is this the right thing? Is this a good idea? Is this what I should be doing? Because I've spent a whole year doing that of like, is this the right thing? Is this what I should be focusing on? No, like, we are focusing on this. This is what I'm doing. I'm talking to myself here. This is what we're doing. If I let myself get distracted and like, look at this and look at that, I feel like it's not going to work. So I have to be targeted. I have to be focused, and I'm going to be using social media this year, Instagram, TikTok, primarily, honestly. Yeah, those are the main two. And that's the other thing is like focus. And YouTube to what extent you can consider that a social media, but focus, right? Like, that's another problem is that there's so many social medias out there, and it's not to say I won't be on them or use them, but I think being targeted and focused on which ones you want to use and then maybe cross post to the others will help you. It hopefully will help me. I already feel less overwhelmed by just narrowing it down to those two. As opposed to like years prior when I was like, I don't want to narrow it down. I want to do all of them. I want to be everywhere so anyone can find me on any platform, blah, 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 blah. All the other stuff, I'm just planning on cross-posting to it and making it not a priority. If I can just auto-post to it, I'll do that. If I can't, I'm not going to worry about it. That's not where the majority of my audience, I feel, is going to come from anyway. So I feel like I can do the best work with sharing and promoting other artists on TikTok and on Instagram. I feel like that's where I can do that the best. This year on Colourisma, even though I didn't expressly, like, this is more like my mission statement with Colourisma and not so much a goal per se, because like this is, for me, this is what Colourisma is to help promote artists who want to make this their full-time business and who do not have the followers. Can relate. And through that, I'm hoping to make a lot of new friends and to help grow all of us together. I just don't see a lot of accounts doing that, and maybe that there's a reason why, but at the end of the year, I'd like to be able to say, hey, I tried my best. I did all the things I could think to do, and maybe it won't work, but you know what? Like, I'm going to give it my all for a year. And that's just what I'm going to do with that. Yes, that's true too. Christy says that decision paralysis is a thing, and thinking about too many things and giving yourself too many outs and giving yourself too many options. It's just too overwhelming. It's just sometimes easier to just be like, look, my goal is to get 200 Patreons this year. And that's it. I'm not going to worry about anything else, because honestly, another goal of mine is to finish volume 1 of The Golden Troop. I can't make a book before I finish the book. I mean, I could do a Kickstarter before finishing the book, but it's definitely been recommended, and I believe that it's not a good idea to do that as much. I've definitely seen better success with Kickstarters from artists who have finished their book and then promoted it through Kickstarter rather than using Kickstarter as a means to create their book. That's what my Patreon is for. I feel like the continued support, like, that might be I don't want to say something so like definitive, but I'll say maybe Patreon is for the long term support from your fans. And I would like to think that maybe Kickstarter would be best utilized as a short-term targeted marketing technique to get a product out there, to finish the product completely and be like, here's the product, here's the end result. As opposed to like, hey, I need this funds to be able to finish it. And that's also why I've kind of reconsidered what I wanted to do with my animation, because I did consider using Kickstarter to like fund the creation of the animation, but I feel like I will have a lot more success if the animation is already done and like 90% done, and all I have to do is add color, or something like that. That would probably fly a lot better than someone who's relatively unknown and being like, hey, I'm going to do a project. Yeah. Instead of saying like, hey, here's a project. I want to completely finalize it so you all can see the final thing. That might go over better. And it depends on, every project is different, and I'm basing it on where I am in my life and blah, 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 blah. So your mileage may vary. Disclaimer. But yeah, so that is kind of my plan. After this, I have on my schedule to complete doing some tasks with the videos that I had been historically bad at. So another YouTube tip is to tag your videos very well so people can find it in the search results. And I wasn't doing that. And I'm like, I wonder why I only have 20 subscribers. So these are the kind of little things that I'm going to do after, each week, after each video, to try to help this whole thing grow. And then I have like the plan to get my 12 frames done for the day. And then I'm going to work on a Patreon ad. And I have a few that I've started. I might work on those, or I might do something different. And I'm also realizing that I am at a little bit of a downside. When you are a creator and you have like millions of followers, it's easy to be like, hey, by the way, I have a Patreon, and like you're going to get somebody's interest. But if no one even knows that you're creating a comic and you're like, hey, I've got a Patreon for this comic you've never heard of, it's a harder sell. Now I can, of course, tell that to the people who are already following me on Instagram, but that's also whatever. You can see the mental blocks that are happening. Like I'm already trying to come up with things that are like, you know what? Those are some of the things I'm going to try to work on and breaking down for myself this year too. Just because I've tried something in the past and it didn't necessarily work, doesn't mean that it won't work, and it doesn't mean I did it correctly. So keeping that in mind. But yeah, I really hope this helped y'all out there. And if nothing else, wasn't too painful to sit through. But I really would like to see you guys' goals. If you end up watching this and you have some goals for the year, what are your 5 goals? Like I'm interested in seeing. I also really like helping people with their goals and how to get there. I find it's easier when you have like this big lofty goal or something to do this process of like going from big to little with someone else, and in the way that their stuff is, because like you don't have all the hang-ups that they do. So I can kind of, for me to help someone else, it's kind of easier because I don't have, the same types of concerns and stuff. I'll just cut straight through to the thing that needs to be done. And you can disagree with that, but I don't mind offering and helping out where I can. So yeah, we're hoping for this to be a productive year. We are hoping that we can get through less scathed than we did last year. And, like, do what you got to do to be able to do the things you got to do. It's not about necessarily being all productive all the time. Sometimes it's just about doing what you can. And this is like this is the other thing I've taking into account with this. This is like the perfect schedule, right? Some days, like I missed yesterday. Like I came up with this at 3 a.m. On Tuesday. So I missed all the things that I was supposed to do on Monday. I still plan for them on Monday because that's when I want to do them in the future, but I didn't do my 12 frames yesterday on my on my new, I'm gonna do a little share here. Can I make this high enough? Yeah. I did end up getting myself a tiny little, tiny, it's not that tiny, but a little Christmas present. And I got a XP pen. Can't remember, the 12, I think. And this allows me to like draw right on the screen like a Cintiq, but this was like $200 as opposed to the Cintiqs that are like start at $1,000. And I also I put it on a 6-month pay plan, so you know, very manageable. So I'm excited to do a lot of my work on this. I'm working with a 8-year-old computer, and this was my kind of gift to myself to be able to allow me to get maybe a couple more years out of this bad boy as I'm tapping it gently. Good computer, please behave. But yeah, so I wanted a couple more years out of this computer before I bite the bullet and pay for another MacBook probably. But yeah, I just need a little bit more motivation to work on this aging platform, which I can no longer update. And I felt like this XP pen was a decent way to do that, which is going to allow me to animate a little bit faster. I was always really hesitant. This is a little side story, but I was always really hesitant to do the draw on the screens because I didn't want to get spoiled. I was like, I like my $100 Wacom tablet bamboos, and I don't want to get spoiled and never be able to draw on them again because I'm so used to drawing on the screen. So I never did draw on the screen until I got my iPad, and I liked it, but because I'm using an iPad from 2014, it wasn't the greatest for drawing. So I was like, it's okay, but it's not great. I could see the potential, but it wasn't what it is now, with what it is going to be in the future and all that. But I started using the iPad more this year for my animations, and I realized how much of a difference it made. And now, since I've been doing this for about a week and drawing on the screen, it is different, and it's different for me in a good way. You can just make more fluid motions than you can when you're actually seeing your hand do the thing. Like, I am so reticent to actually say that because I was such a like bamboo purist. Like, I was like, no, I love my bamboo tablet. I never want to give it up. I never want to only go to, you know, screen drawing. But and I still might use it if I'm traveling or whatnot, and I don't think I'll completely get spoiled on it. But I like my I like both now. I can deal with both. All right, we'll go ahead and switch it over so I can say bye to y'all. But yeah, so that was my little thing that I did for myself at the end of a hard 2020 year. And I felt like moving forward a couple of years, it'll allow me to be able to make a little more use of this platform here that I've got. So yeah, I hope the best for you all for this year, and fingers crossed. Just fingers crossed. I'm not going to say any more than that. I would love to see y'all's goals if you want to leave them in the comments. And as well, yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Got to. I can't spend all day, all this whole entire time talking about, you know, my goals and not mention that, you know, I have Colourisma on Patreon. And if you'd like to support the channel and help it grow and meet these goals that, you know all the secrets, you know my plan for the whole year. If you want to be a part of that and help this grow and help support artists that need more limelight on their work, then you can find Colourisma over at patreon.com/Colourisma. So thank you all so much for watching. And if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe, because like I need those subscribers too. Like, y'all matter. That's just saying. I appreciate you. Anyway, weird long tangents aside, I do appreciate y'all, and I will catch you next week. So take care. Bye.